Anytime the Florida Department of Law Enforcement has to investigate a case, each officer involved has to be placed on leave until that analysis plus a separate internal investigation are complete. Zach Sedalis was a detective at the Alachua County Sheriff's Office and is now running for sheriff against the incumbent, Sadie Darnell. Sedalis was put on paid administrative leave for 9 months while FDLE and the Sheriff's Office investigated a domestic battery case between him and his wife. That's nearly $36,000 worth of his time. After living through the leave system, he isn't a fan.
What if it comes back and it's not a major violation? What if it comes back and says, okay, it's a level 1 or level 2 violations? They come back and you can still work and you're going to work with us. Well, now guess what? You haven't spun your wheels for 6 months or for 4 weeks. You learn a different skill. And maybe something that you've picked up even better, or you can take that skill back to whatever your bureau is and get better at it.
I spoke with an attorney who says in his experience, it's about 60-40 for when employees are put on paid administrative leave for something they do on the job versus outside of work.
Now, substance abuse isn't just limited to people that are non-law enforcement. I mean, that's a very stressful job, and they have the same problems and personal issues.
The employee is put on leave while the case is what's called told.
Which means we're not doing anything with that internal investigation until the state attorney's office and the agency that's investigating that case have completed their investigation, and that has gone through the entire court system.
The sheriff's office has a 6-month cap on their internal investigations, but that clock doesn't start ticking till the criminal investigation is done.
We do an internal investigation to make sure that none of our policies or our standards of behavior were violated, and that's basically to determine the course of action with regard to that individual's employment.
What I've got here is the standards of conduct for the Alachua County Sheriff's Office. It's essentially a 13-page long document detailing everything an employee can do to get themselves in trouble. That could be excessive use of force, failing to take action they should have, improper relationships within the office, the list goes on. And there are circumstances where an employee could be charged with a crime but still keep their job.
Usually the line is drawn when the charge against the individual corrupts, for lack of a better term, their ability to function as an unbiased law enforcement officer.
Many officers are part of unions that will help them if they ever run into any legal trouble. The Florida Police Benevolent Association, for example, contracts local criminal defense attorneys to represent members of that group in court.
It varies from contract to contract, from agency to agency, and from union to union. But generally speaking, there's coverage if the individual is accused of misconduct while on duty or in the course and scope of their employment.
Sedalis feels his time on leave was unproductive and thinks he would have been better off if he'd been reassigned at work so that he could still be useful to the department.
A chance for you to learn a different skill. You can do teleserve, which is answering phone calls for citizens who call in for reporting on the phone. We can put you in a different division where you're not directly affecting the employees who are in your division, and you can learn a different skill. You can expand as an employee.
But ACSO and the lawyers I talked to said the system may be flawed, but it's necessary. The deputies can't go unpaid because they're suspended, not fired. And it may turn out they did nothing wrong, but they can't always stay at the office because they could be a distraction.
Not additional funding to the sheriff's office to have an individual that's on paid administrative leave. They're receiving the funds that were already budgeted to them during the course of that fiscal year. They're just not in a working status because they're under investigation.
We have to review our policies and our procedures and make something standard for our employees, one, but for the citizens to save them tax dollars. I think there's a lot of waste that goes on with this administrative suspension.
Marie Ettinger, WUFT News.